Hey friends, I'm Jan Koch. I'm the host of the WP Agency Summit, and I just opened the Hey Presto Conference 2020 that's happening on Twitter right now. So in case you've missed this, this is a conference taking place solely on Twitter. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to elaborate a little bit about the slides that I had in my conference, because essentially it's like a 50-minute talk that I've given, and for 1 minute there was one tweet going out, and then so essentially it's one slide per minute for 50-minute talks throughout the day. And Akshat Chaudhary from WP Remote, Blog Vault and Malcare is speaking right now. So what I want to do right now is I want to jump into Twitter, take you with me in Twitter, and just go over the presentation I just gave. Enjoy. So we are looking at the Hey Presto website right now. That is heyprestoconf.org, where you can get more information about what this conference is all about. And let's dive into Twitter right now. So my talk was about bringing together 10,000 plus registrants using virtual summits. And I link the thread in the show notes right below this video. So let's dive right into the thread right here. First, a little bit of background about who I am. So I'm a WordPress developer since 2012, and since 2013 I am self-employed. I have started using these summits in 2015 already. So this is not something I jumped on because of COVID. It's something that I've been doing for 5+ years by now. I have reached over 10,000 attendees with my events, 125,000 plus page views, and over 110 countries. And I want to give a big thank you to the WordPress community, because with all the support I have received from individuals and from companies alike, I would have not been able to run these events for so long. So this presentation is about the strategy behind the virtual summit, 3 ways to monetize your virtual events, and then lastly, executing the event. And I'm going to keep this very brief here, because there's really, each slide of these could be its own presentation, but I want to give you an overview of what's going on. So when you have the idea to run a virtual summit, plan at least 3 months for your first virtual summit, probably even 6 months if you have the time. And the reason being is that you'll have new ideas once you start working on your summit, which change the direction of the summit, very, very likely. You have to orchestrate speakers, sponsors, a design team to create all the promotional graphics. You have to orchestrate live streams during the event. You have to orchestrate pre-recorded sessions, which also includes the editing of the sessions. You have to build the website. You have to build the launch campaign. You have to build or to write email campaigns. You have to set up automations for email. And there are so many things coming together. So that 3 months, which includes recording the actual presentations on your event, is really the minimum of time, because when you want to have corporate sponsorships, which we'll talk about later on, these companies need time to include the promotion of your event into their own marketing mix. That's just one side note that I wasn't able to fit into the presentation here on the Hey Presto Conf. Next, decide on hiring virtual assistants or staff, or doing it on your own. And I would highly recommend to not do it on your own. I'm the first to say that I've been close to burnout because of this. And the reason is, as you can see on that slide, let me zoom in a little bit further. There we go. As you can see on the slide, there are many, many things that you need to be able to juggle around when you're running a virtual conference, whether that is all the graphic design, as I've said, for individual speaker ads, for website elements, for sales ads, for emails, you name it. Whether that is conducting the interviews, preparing the interviews, doing speaker research in the first place, and orchestrating all the schedulings to record the interviews or to do them live even. Manage the hosting, the web design, doing live streams during the event, moderating a networking lounge if you have that. Build up the sales funnel, build up the lead gen funnel. There are so many things that I think by now it's clear what I've said previously, that 3 months is the absolute minimum in my eyes to execute on your first virtual summit. And lastly, or next, don't skip the research phase. And that's something I've learned from my good friend Navid Moazzez, who runs virtualsummitmastery.com, a program I have taken before running my first virtual summit, and I highly recommend Virtual Summit Mastery if you are serious about virtual summits. It's an investment, but Navid over-delivers, and it has paid for itself for me at least 20 times over. So this is a good program to take if you're serious about running a virtual summit, and I do have an affiliate link in the video description below that obviously gives me a slight commission without adding any extra cost for you. And what I mean with doing your research on competition in the target market, especially in Corona times, is that there are virtual summits popping up everywhere, literally everywhere. All the physical conferences that cannot happen these days are turned into virtual events. All the speakers that are, or the entrepreneurs who are struggling to reach their offline audiences are trying to find new ways to reach them online, which often results in virtual events. All the marketers are jumping on the bandwagon of running virtual conferences because physical conferences cannot happen. So that is why you definitely need to do your research so that you can ensure your summit stands out amongst the others. So what after you've done the research? You then define your virtual summit hook and the marketing outline. And again, this is something I've taken from Virtual Summit Mastery. And Navid basically structures this around the attendee experience. And I think that is a brilliant way to think about a summit, because what separates the events you remember from the events you don't? It is that those events stood out amongst the others. And that is why you should think about what will your attendees remember when they've gone through your virtual summit. What will they have learned? How do you want to structure the event so that they get the best experience out of attending? Then you're ready to think about the speakers. So you need to build a list of A, B, and C list speakers. And I don't mean this to put some speakers on a pedestal and others not, but essentially what you need is you need to have a good mix of speakers who have such a big name that they spark the interest of people actually wanting to come to your event. But also those speakers with the really big and popular brands, they will likely not share your summit as much because they don't need to. They have their own marketing campaigns coming on, and you can consider yourself lucky if those speakers get onto your summit, to be honest. But that's where the B and C list speakers come in. So those are people who are not as well known in your space, but also have a lot of value to add to your summit. And what you want to do is you want to mix the big names with the names that have lesser known brands, because those will then share your event because they are sharing the stage with the really big speakers. That is why it's really important to have a good mix on the speakers. And obviously you want to have a diversified lineup. So don't just put only males on the speaker lineup. Don't just put only white people on the speaker lineup, for example. Get diversified. It's something I have certainly received a lot of backslash for in 2019 for a reason, because my speaker lineup was 28 males and 4 females, I think, which was not based on intention, but on my existing network at the time. But for this WP Agency Summit coming up in October, on October 12th, I do have a much more diverse lineup. Then, when you start on actually recording the sessions and getting into the organization, use automation as much as you can. Leverage software as much as you can. So for scheduling, I use Calendly. So I'm currently exploring Zoom AI as an alternative, because Calendly sometimes fails to send invites to the inboxes of my speakers or of the people I want to interview. I have ActiveCampaign for highly automated email campaigns, which is a game changer for me personally. And all the data that comes together with the virtual summit, whether that is information about the speakers, about sponsors, about bonuses, about marketing channels, goes into Airtable, because Airtable then connects to Zapier and just leverages automation further. This is something that I cannot recommend highly enough, is you want to make sure that you have automation in place. For session transcriptions, for example, you can use otter.ai, OTTER.ai, that is an AI-based transcription service that you then just need to review, just as another example. Now, onto the monetization part. There are 3 ways, as I've mentioned, on how you can make money from your summit. And the first one is what the fantastic WP buffs are doing with their WP MRR virtual summit. They keep it free to attend forever and then use it to build their list, build their authority in the market, and build their audience. And obviously, with a bigger audience, given that it is relevant to what you're doing, you can then promote your services and products later on after the event. And that is something that is a really, really smart approach. But it also requires a lot of investment upfront. So it is not cheap to run these summits, as you've probably guessed by now. Even if you're not spending money, you're certainly spending time on these. So it is a decision that you need to make. And for the buffs, it was the best decision to keep it free and then just deliver value to the audience and build their audience, grow their email list using a summit. What I like to do is I like to sell lifetime access passes on my events after the event has ended. So if you don't want to keep your summit for free, what you can do is you can sell lifetime access passes after the event has ended. And that is what I like to do. So I like to keep my WP Agency Summit free to attend while it's live. So that is October 12th to 16th. You can join all the sessions for free. You can get all the contents. You can see the transcriptions. You can join the networking area. You can play around individual sponsorship booths, win prizes worth over $3,500. So this is all free. But then when the summit has ended, you would have to pay for a lifetime access pass. And those are in the pre-launch really cheap. I'm selling them for $47 right now. And the link to the landing page, if you want to learn more, is on all the slides, and it's also below this video, register.wpagencysummit.com, where you can see the funnel in action too. So I'm using deadline funnel on my websites as well, as you will notice when you sign up. So you don't have to break the banks of your attendees, and I think that is a really important point, because what my goal is for the summit is I want to make the information as accessible as possible and to turn it into the resource I wanted when I was starting my agency, which in that time I was certainly pressed for cash. So that is why I'm keeping the pre-launch price so cheap, and price will go up as the summit starts. But again, for the pre-launch price, $47, I think you can't argue with that. You can also do corporate sponsorships for your events, which is also what I am doing to cover the costs up front. So it takes me a couple of months to run these events, and I have over 30 speakers by now. And I use corporate sponsorship to pay for these months in advance. So obviously I have to pay for my own time. I have to pay my own bills. I have to pay services that I use to build these summits. I have to have a budget for ads so that I can promote the summits properly. And then I think these expenses justify corporate sponsorship. And if you can find a way to give value to companies so that the sponsorship packages are appealing to them, then it's definitely a fantastic way to pay for your expenses and to also put a little bit of buffer in your bank account for when the summit is not so well received, that you are not breaking your own bank with all the work that has gone into the event. Talking about the execution, and you can probably tell by now that I'm likely raising more questions for you than answering, but it's an overview presentation here, so please keep that in mind. Execution of the virtual summit obviously involves building the website. So as I've mentioned here in the tweet, you will need tools like video embeds, live chat, shopping cart, quizzes or spinning wheels, group video calls, and so on, depending on how you want to structure your event. And on the slide, you can see a very simple example structure that involves a landing page where people sign up, an upsell page for the lifetime access, the content pages where the individual sessions will live, speaker pages that speakers can use to promote the virtual sponsorship booth, and the networking lounges. And again, I've gotten this structure for the first time in Virtual Summit Mastery and then refined it myself. So again, another shout out to Navid and his program here. Give credit where credit is due. What you also want to do when you're executing on the event is you want to talk to affiliates and sponsors constantly. Keep the communication going. This is super, super important. Create swipe copy that people can use to promote your event. Build the sponsorship booths. Provide promotional graphics. Publish the session schedule on your event. And explain how affiliates and sponsors and attendees, obviously, can attend the event, how to engage during the event, how to network, for example, with other attendees, and just make sure that you are leaving no questions open, because you will cause confusion when you're running a virtual summit. People will not know what to expect when they are coming to their own first virtual summit as attendees. So you need to make sure that you are very clear on communication. And lastly, speaking of engagement, you have to be present during the event yourself. You have to engage with your target audience. Whether that means that you are in a Facebook group where you are networking with attendees, whether that means that you are doing live streams regularly, you are answering questions that come at you on various channels inevitably. So you will see questions on Facebook Messenger, on Twitter, on email, in the networking lounge if you have it. There will be tons and tons of questions. Be prepared for that. But also you can use those to spark conversations. So take some of these questions into the public and ask them for everybody, not just for the person asking them. And just be present, be approachable, be in the summit host, because you are the one in authority, not so much the speakers, because you are pulling the event together, which then again is the branding benefit that you are striving for when you're hosting a virtual summit. So this is my presentation on the Hey Presto conference. And again, if you want to learn more about that conference, go to heyprestoconf.org. And if you want to learn more about my virtual summit, which is coming up on October 12th, let me zoom in a little bit again. I'm on a 4K display, by the way, so that's why I have to zoom in. If you want to bring back the fun into scaling your WordPress agency and learn what 25 plus WordPress world-class agency owners do differently with their agencies than the other agencies who are struggling, and if you want to meet new friends in the virtual networking lounge that I'm having on the WP Agency Summit, then check out register.wpagencysummit.com and sign up for your free tickets. And who knows, maybe you are too working with companies like Starbucks, National Geographic, Viacom, Astra, LA Phil, or Microsoft. Thank you so much for watching the presentation and for spending the time with me. And I hope to see you on the WP Agency Summit soon. Cheers.